Good evening from New York. This is Thursday, December 2nd, 705 days until the 2012 presidential election, and the day Republicans actually voted for a middle-class tax hike by voting against the extension of middle-class tax cuts. And in our fifth story, the GOP will hold that middle-class tax cut hostage and hold unemployment insurance hostage and hold the START treaty hostage until they get tax breaks for the rich. But the House vote on an extension of middle-class tax cuts passed today. 234 yeas, 231 Democrats, 3 Republicans, 188 nays, 168 Republicans, and 20 Democrats. The bill will now go to the Senate to be ensnared by the GOP obstruction machine there. More on that in a moment. House Republicans, led by incoming Speaker Boehner, called today's vote a political stunt, not to mention calling it animal excrement.
Trying to catch my breath so I don't refer to this this maneuver going on today as chicken crap, all right? But this is nonsense, all right? The election was 1 month ago. We're 23 months from the next election, and the political games have already started trying to set up the next election.
And Mr. Boehner seems to think that since there is virtually no chance that the House-passed middle-class tax cut will then pass the Senate, it is a waste of time. So we can then assume that when he takes over as Speaker, Mr. Boehner will not be condoning any votes on repealing health care. Actual Speaker Pelosi, meantime, is well aware of how Senate Republicans intend to hold the middle-class tax cut hostage and unemployment insurance hostage in favor of tax cuts for the rich.
Yesterday in the Capitol, hundreds of people looking for work came to the Capitol of the United States. They knew that by the end of December, unless this Congress acts, 2 million Americans will lose their unemployment insurance. What they heard was that the Republicans in the Senate had said, if you want unemployment insurance, it has to be paid for. But we want to give tax cuts to the wealthiest people in America to the tune of $700 billion, and that doesn't have to be paid for.
Indeed, having issued their unified filibuster threat yesterday, Senate Republicans keep upping the ante. Senator John Kyle saying, quote, if the taxes all can't be resolved and voted on and completed, and spending for the government for the next 10 months completed by like next Monday, I don't know how there's enough time to complete START. Senator Kyle, you will recall, is part of the working group negotiating a so-called compromise on the Bush tax cuts. The blowback he got from 5 Republican secretaries of state, one of whom will join us ahead. Late today, Senate Democrats and Republicans tentatively agreed to hold 4 test votes on the Bush tax cuts, including a vote as early as Friday on the House-passed middle-class tax cut. We'll ask Howard Fineman about that momentarily. The president today saying again that middle-class tax cuts must be extended, as well as the unemployment insurance, and he alluded to passage of those jobless benefits as, quote, part of a broader package. Meantime, Move On has placed a national ad asking the president to stop letting himself get pushed around. And the Progressive Change Campaign Committee will run a similar ad urging President Obama not to, quote, cave. Let's turn to Representative Anthony Weiner of New York's 9th District. Congressman, good evening. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you, Keith.
Finally, a vote. Have we become so jaded by political machinations, particularly those in the Senate, that a clear-cut up or down vote comes not just as a surprise, but is painted by Republicans as a stunt?
Well, not only that, and I know it's tough for Mr. Boehner to read the Constitution, but any tax bill has to be initiated by the House. You can't wait for someone else to do it. That's what we did today. And let's remember something for those of us whose memories have faded. The only reason why these tax cuts lapse at the end of the year is because that's the way the Republicans wrote the law. So all we're doing is taking this hand that we were dealt, giving tax cuts to 97% of Americans, and now every single Republican is on record being against it. You know, if this is the way they're going to govern, this whole idea is if you don't give me every single thing that I want, I'm not going to vote for anything. Nothing on the Republican House or Senate is going to get done. Let's face it, I also thought there should have been some changes in this. I'd like to see maybe a little bit higher than $250,000 because I'm in a high-cost state. But if they think they're going to govern by simply saying it's our way or the highway, the president and Democrats are saying we're going to keep fighting for the things we believe in, which is fighting for the middle class and those that are struggling to make it there.
For policy reasons and indeed for political reasons, could this vote have been held before the election?
Well, perhaps it could have been. I think maybe we could have done this a while ago. But let's remember something. You know, despite the rhetoric coming out from Mr. Boehner, this is actually an area where I thought, and the Republicans, frankly, said we all agreed. We might disagree about people over $250,000, but we all, I thought, agreed that anyone south, which is overwhelming numbers of your viewers, we agreed on this. So this idea that this is some kind of a stunt, this is called governing. The Republicans seem so unprepared for the responsibility that they now have, which is to sit down, negotiate, and govern, that when you have a simple up or down vote on a simple premise of tax cutting, even then they're all no.
Let me read you the statement from the White House and read it to our viewers as well. The president continues to believe that extending middle-class tax cuts is the most important thing we can do for our economy right now, and he applauds the House for passing a permanent extension. But because Republicans have made it clear that they won't pass a middle-class extension without also extending tax cuts for the wealthy, the president has asked Director Liu and Secretary Geithner to work with Congress to find a way forward. Is that a satisfactory statement in your opinion, or did it start well and kind of poop out at the end? Is there more leadership needed out of the White House on this?
I don't know, but it's kind of like saying, if you don't stop punching me in the nose in the next 2 hours, I'm going to be really upset. I mean, look, the fact is, I think the president needs to understand what many of us on Capitol Hill have known for quite some time now. The Republicans are simply going to vote no on just about every single thing. It's their only thing that unifies them, the fact that they're against everything. So even when you say tax cuts, I thought they were the party that liked tax cuts. They're unified as a no. Look, the president is pursuing bipartisanship. He should be commended for doing that. But just like a child looks for a unicorn, sooner or later you go on with your life realizing you're not going to find one. I think that's the place that Democrats have to be right now.
Well, you can keep looking for them, but not around every corner. Maybe you have 1 out of 5. Right. If ultimately Democrats accept a temporary extension of the full range of cuts, including those for the wealthy, do you have a sense that at least there will be a deal that will include the extension of jobless benefits?
Well, I do know what we believe and what we want to fight for. We believe that the jobless benefits have to be extended. The START treaty is basically done. It just has to be signed off on. A lot of the accommodations for people like Senator Kyle are already baked into that deal. I know things like don't ask, don't tell. I know things like the immigration bill that would allow people who are in college to continue to be able to stay there. But we Democrats have this exaggerated fidelity to governance. We have to realize any deal has to include someone to deal with. Show me a Republican in this town that's prepared to have any kind of adult conversation about governing, and I will show you that they don't exist right now. Hopefully Mr. Boehner will be that way, but he's not that way today.
Congressman Unicorn of Unicorn Land might be available to you to negotiate. That might be the best one. Congressman Anthony Weiner of New York, who actually represents an actual district. Thank you kindly, sir.
Thank you, sir.